Hello and welcome to Linguists Academy. I'm here with the vocabulary for today. There are three words which we are going to understand today. They are incident, incidence, and occurrence. By way of spelling, if you see incident and incidence look quite similar. They look quite close to each other in meaning, but they are different and we are going to understand how. Let's take the first word, incident. What does the word incident refer to? It basically refers to an unexpected event, an event which is unexpected. And frankly speaking, many of us associate this word with some unpleasant or distressing moment. Okay, and there's one more thing that we need to be very carefully aware of with this word is when we use the plural form of this word. When we use the plural form of this word, usually it is very loosely referred to as incidences, very casually and loosely referred to as incidences. But if you go by the first slide which I showed you, I told you these were two different words, incident and incidence. So the correlating plural form for incident is incidents and not incidences. Okay, so please note this, incident singular and incidents plural. Now, if we go to see and move ahead like we usually do, the use of incident in sentences. See this first sentence. The students rushed to report the incident to the principal. A sudden happening, a sudden event. The students rushed to report the incident to the principal. She has not been able to forget the traumatic incident of her husband's death. She has not been able to forget that uneventful happening, the traumatic incident of her husband's death. See the third sentence. An incident of explosion. An incident of explosion happened last night at a chemical factory in the suburbs. So it was an incident of explosion, a sudden event, a sudden happening that happened last night at a chemical factory in the suburbs. So this was about incident. Now, if we move on to understand incidence and how it is different, okay? Incidence refers to the frequency of an incident. So somewhere associated with incident, but the frequency of an incident. When a similar kind of incident keeps happening frequently, it is referred to as incidence. The plural, of course, is incidences. I had told you about this, that correlatively, incident, incidents, incidence, incidences. See the use of incidence in sentences. There is a high incidence of diabetes in adolescents owing to a faulty lifestyle. Here when we say high incidence of diabetes, it means these incidents that we have observed have been happening over a period of time, have been happening frequently, and therefore we refer to it as a high incidence of diabetes in adolescents and not an incident of diabetes. It's not one incident, but frequently happening. See the second one. An incidence of cholera took up the lives of many a few years ago because it was a frequent happening. Whatever the disease that came about, whatever the illness that came about, the impact was frequent. It came up frequently and therefore it was called as an incidence. COVID-19 has been one of the worst incidences mankind has ever experienced. This is a very clear example of the use of the word incidence, which all of us will be able to relate to quickly. COVID-19 has been one of the worst incidences. Those kinds of virus spreads or those kinds of diseases which keep spreading, which keep happening. Now, this was one of the worst incidences mankind has ever experienced. Frankly speaking, now the examples which I show you further will make this difference clear. See the first one. They reported an incident of theft in their house last night. Incident of theft in their house last night. The police have observed a high incidence of thefts in their area. First, it was an incident of theft in their house. Now it is high incidence of thefts, frequently happening thefts. See the next example. The incident of a car that was crushed under the wheels of a speeding truck was hard to forget. That was one incident which was extremely hard to forget, but incident of a car. And now see, according to the highway police, the incidences of accidents on the highway has increased over the years. It means the incidence of accidents. Time and again these accidents are happening. We are not speaking of one incident alone, and therefore over a period of time then it is termed as incidence. So now when we make use of the word, the choice of word will become easier for us. We will be able to choose when we want to say incident and when we want to say incidence. Now we come to a third word, that is occurrence. Let us see what happens in the case of occurrence. Okay? An occurrence is an event without any notice, plan or intention. An event that happens without any notice, plan or intention. It is something that is uncalled for, sudden. That is occurrence. There is no damage to life or property when you refer to something as an occurrence. Okay, there is no damage to life or property. There is a greater impact on the minds of the affected. The emotional impact is greater than any kind of physical or material damage. So the occurrence is one that has a greater impact on the minds of the affected, whereas incidence or incident incorporates a physical material aspect as well. Now see how this can be checked again. Incident, occurrence, what is the difference between the two? Because incident also we said was sudden, occurrence also we said was sudden, then how is it different? One thing we must remember is that in case of occurrence, the severity is lesser, whereas the extent of incident, in the extent of when we speak of incident, the extent of severity is a little more than what it is in occurrence. For example, the occurrence of sudden rain showers caught people off guard. The occurrence of sudden rain showers caught people off guard. Here if you see occurrence, it is not having such a severe impact. Now let us see the difference between all these three words through quick examples. Occurrence, example is an accidental oil spillage led to fire in a factory. An accidental oil spillage led to fire in a factory. There was no damage of life. Okay, there was no damage of life and maybe not so much of property as well. So it was an occurrence. The same thing if we have to speak of in the form of incident. Fire broke out at the factory and people ran helter-skelter seeking protection because there was a threat. That incident posed a threat. Number one, it was sudden. Number two, it posed a threat to life and property, and therefore people ran helter-skelter seeking protection. That was an incident, not just a mere occurrence. An incidence. The police prepared an incidence report based on the frequent outbreaks of fire at various places in the city. When these fires kept happening, it was reported to or referred to as an incidence of fire repeatedly happening. These examples will show you the clear difference between when some event can be termed as an occurrence, when it could be termed as an incident, and when it could be termed as an incidence. So when you practically apply it, when you're reporting to somebody, when you're talking to somebody, either in the corporate field or elsewhere, whenever you are in communication, use and choose wisely whether you really want to mention something or refer to something as a mere occurrence, whether you want to point it out as an incident, or whether you are concerned about it being an incidence. So, thank you and stay tuned to Fab Vocab. I'll keep meeting you often. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. If you can refer to anybody who can benefit from these activities, please do. See you again. Till then, bye-bye.